Welcome to the Short Funk Podcast. I'm Tom Barbalet, and today, Viva, Calle, San Jose. This was an event that was presented to the community probably a couple of months ago, and it's based on a series of cities in South America and also Mexico City where they shut down major streets for a day. Here, they were shut down from 10 a.m. till 4 p.m. on Sunday, last Sunday. But it was quite an experience. This also corresponds with the area that I live in, and it also corresponds with the largest kind of Latino community in probably the greater Bay Area. And it was interesting. I got out at about 10:30. I was working on Sunday, so I allocated maybe 40 minutes to go out and participate. I walked the neighborhood, which is actually very well defined in terms of numbered streets, along a main roadway that's basically at the end of my street. And it was amazing. It was a bit like an apocalypse. There was virtually no one out. There were groups of maybe 5 to 10 cyclists that would come along at various intervals. But certainly when I started out, I was one of the few walkers. In fact, at certain cross streets, they let traffic through, and they had people kind of mandating that you stop and then go according to the traffic lights, but also to maintain some degree of order in the environment. And one of the gentlemen noted to me that I was one of only 4 walkers that he had seen at this time, but this is when I started out. I finished doing it probably at about 11. I stopped off in a local restaurant, which was exclusively Spanish only, and really it's one that we pass on a periodic basis, but I'd always wanted to go in. I had some shredded beef tacos, which were basically real ground beef because the sinew was kind of ground into the beef. What? That bad, actually. But it had a wide variety of artwork on the walls and a variety of really interesting things. The experience of walking through the neighborhood on the street, normally I walk on footpaths, obviously, but to actually do it on the street and to see, the buildings and what have you from the center of the street as opposed to looking from footpaths was a very different experience. There was a section up towards where the homeless encampment used to be that had 2 fire engines, loud fire engines with an American flag strung between them. And there was a heavy police contingent there as well. There was a memorial for a fallen officer. And, that had been, I guess, some kind of legitimization for the walk for the police and firefighter contingent who were there. There were a fair number of motor vehicles, police motor vehicles, rescue motor vehicles that went along the street as well. I would say I saw maybe a dozen while I was walking. And then I got to an intersection which led up to the center of town, and that street was also closed. And by this point, there were more people out, and I walked home and, like I said, stopped in the local restaurant. It was an interesting experience because it came from South America, and I've seen video footage of the South American streets, and they were just absolutely packed with people. Less so cyclists. There was a heavy emphasis on cyclists in the local community promotion, and I think it's because this is not a culture of walking in the community. I've been a relatively strong advocate, certainly of our board, to walk the community as a means of actually seeing what's going on with regards to the homeless and various other things. And I'm one of a minority, basically. I think the president and I are the only 2 who actively walk the community on a regular basis. But to do it from the middle of the street was actually pretty good, and it was quite overwhelming because there were so many people who came out in a facilitative role as volunteers in order to stop and start traffic and do all these things. So I thought, if this volunteer community is here for this kind of event, maybe you can move some of this sideways, although there were a lot of, interested parties at various points, local schools, these kind of things. It still was quite inspirational in terms of it being just a community group that had kind of self-evolved into creating this thing. And I was certainly very strong in my praise on Nextdoor as a means of communicating to others that I'd like to see this kind of thing next year. Certainly a very nice experience and one that I wanted to share with the Short Funk listening audience. Tom Barbalet in San Jose, signing out.